Mr. Jethmalani, Mr. R.K.P. Shankardass, all the customers.
Yeah, yesterday, Justice really
I'll request everybody to kindly take their seats. We had a very fruitful conference so far, and now the icing on the cake, the valedictory session, and I am invoking the word icing on the cake also because we have a birthday boy on the dais. So we are both celebrating the conclusion of a fruitful conference and also celebrating one of our most outstanding, illustrious, celebrated lawyers, Mr. Ram Jethmalani. Friends, the success of the conference is evident from the fact that the hall is nearly full even for the last session after 2 days intensive deliberations. No doubt it is also due to the presence of Justice Thakur and Mr. Ram Jethmalani. Every big Hollywood movie or Bollywood movie comes with a heavy advance booking. Friends, we had delegates from almost 20 states present here, right from Meghalaya, Manipur to Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. In fact, Karnataka and Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh as well as Maharashtra, we had delegations of lawyers who have traveled all the way to attend this conference. So, since the star cast is so heavy, I think a side role of mine should be very limited. So, I will not make any further introduction because all our guests are very well-known personalities, and I will straight away request Mr. Anil Divan to give his welcome address.
Honorable Mr. Justice Thakur, my friend and my client, Ram Jethmalani. I have been appearing for him in the black money case over almost 2.5 years now.
5 years.
5 years. 2009, Shankardass, Vice President, friends. It's a great event today to have Ram on his 91st birthday Ram and I have been associated with many cases, including the first one, Vineet Narayan versus the Union of India, the Jain Hawala case, decided as far back as 1998. So we have been fighting corruption cases and black money cases, etc. But I must share with you one secret, that most of the political leaders are of the view that whatever wrongs they commit, if Ram Jethmalani is going to defend them, they will always be acquitted. And if you see the number of his clients, illustrious clients, who have gone through a lot of flack, you will be surprised to see from Shahid Balwa, for whom he is appearing now, and from Lalu Yadav, etc., etc. So I told him, I'll certainly be your counsel, but I don't want to be your client. Huh? Now, friends, I must share with you, while welcoming our guests, that Justice Thakur soon, by the end of this month, will become the second senior most judge after Justice Dattur becomes Chief Justice of India. And in due course, we expect him to take up the mantle of leadership as Chief Justice of India. We wish him all success. I have had the privilege of appearing both with and against his very illustrious father, Sri D.D. Thakur, who was not only a doyen at the bar, but also law minister, etc., and occupied many distinguished public offices. So Sri D.D. Thakur I know since many, many years. Of course, he has passed away now. Friends, there are two things here, the theme of this conference. One is rule of law. The second is reforms. How do we make our system more amenable, more friendly to the litigant? And I want to share with you 2 or 3 things on the rule of law, which I, as a very old practitioner, know, and which most of you must not have heard of. How the bar has fought for the rule of law in the past, and how it has upheld it. And the first thing goes back to June 1957. What happened in June 57? In Parliament there was a demand, because there came to be known as the Haridas Mundra scandal. And what was the scandal? LIC is supposed to have bought shares in Mundra companies based in Calcutta, etc., at very high prices. So there was a demand. The matter should be inquired into. And Chief Justice Chagla of the Bombay High Court was appointed as one-man commission. And Chagla insisted that I must have, as the counsel for the commission, the then serving Attorney General M.C. Setalvad. The then serving Attorney General M.C. Setalvad as counsel for the commission, not counsel for the government, counsel for the commission. And then Chagla finished his hearings within a short time, and within about 1 or 2 months, he made his report also. Now, the report was very critical of T.T. Krishnamachari, who was the finance minister, as well as Reserve Bank officials and many other IAS personnel, including Finance Secretary H.M. Patel. Now, what happened during the hearing? Not only did Chagla cross-examine very vigorously, but Setalvad, who was the Attorney General, in his concluding address was very critical not only of the finance minister, but also of very high officials of the government. In fact, he was criticized in Parliament that how can our Attorney General do this? To which his answer was that as counsel for the commission, it is not my duty to defend any government. It is my duty to ascertain the truth. and in ascertaining the truth, if I have to cross-examine or criticize any member of the government, I will do so. And this is the English tradition. This is the tradition in the Linsky Tribunal, in the Rents Tribunal, etc., where attorney generals assisting a tribunal or a commission would insist on ascertainment of the truth, not defense of Mr. X or Mr. Y or Mr. Z. So that's one instance where sitting Chief Justice, serving Attorney General came out to ascertain the truth. Why? So that the rule of law is protected. The second one, instance which I must share with you is 1976. You are aware, some of you are, of the emergency, the internal emergency which was imposed in 75 June and thereafter withdrawn in March 77 after the new elections took place. Now, I was in Bombay at that time, and N.P. Nathwani, a retired judge of the Bombay High Court, we wanted to protest against the emergency. So he asked the police commissioner that we want to hold a private meeting of lawyers, where who will speak? Former Chief Justice of India, J.C. Shah, who had retired by that time, former Chief Justice of Bombay, M.C. Chagla, and Nathwani himself. He was a Gandhian, so he was very much against the emergency. The police commissioner banned the meeting. We went to the court, challenged the order to make it a reportable case. The matter was heard in the first cause. If those who have come from Maharashtra know, it is known as Chagla's court, court number 1, where Chief Justice R.M. Kantawala and Justice V.D. Tuldapurkar were holding the sessions. And over 120 lawyers appeared for Nathwani, because Nathwani by that time had retired as a judge. And the 120 lawyer team was led by none other than Nani Palkhiwala and Ram Jethmalani. Soli Sorabji, myself, etc. were all in this. The order was struck down. But before the order was struck down, we applied for cross-examination of the police commissioner who had passed this order, because we said it is arbitrary, non-application of mine, irrelevant considerations, etc. And Tuldapurkar being on the bench, he ordered the police commissioner to come, and he was cross-examined by Ram in a manner which did no credit to the police commissioner. In fact, the judgment passed strictures against him because he had not applied his mind. Because the reason which he gave was that if this meeting is allowed to be held, and if former Chief Justice of India, J.C. Shah, and former Chief Justice of Bombay, M.C. Chagla, allowed to speak, it will threaten the internal security of India. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? So we fought and we won, and the whole idea was the rule of law must prevail. So I share with these two instances to show what you should do if and when such an eventuality arises. And as young lawyers, it's your duty to carry forward this great protection which we have of the Constitution, of constitutional values, etc. And before I conclude, let me cite to you some immortal words which were uttered on the floor on the first day of our Constituent Assembly. On 9th of December 1946 was a historic day, the first meeting of the Constituent Assembly of India. And Dr. Sachidanand Sinha, was the oldest member elected or selected in the Assembly, and he was the oldest parliamentarian. So the first step was, he was made provisional chairman, because later, of course, Rajendra Prasad became the permanent chairman. He was made a provisional chairman for the first session to go ahead. And he cited Joseph Story, a great American jurist and then also a judge of the Supreme Court of USA. And this is from his inaugural address. If you see the Constituent Assembly debates, you will find the whole passage there. I am only reading out a portion of it. In his inaugural address, he cited Joseph Story. Joseph Story wrote, and I quote, "Let the American youth never forget that they possess in their Constitution a noble inheritance, bought by the toils and sufferings and blood of their ancestors, and capable, if wisely improved and faithfully guarded, of transmitting to their latest posterity all the substantial blessings of life, the peaceful enjoyment of liberty, property, religion, and independence. It may nevertheless perish in an hour by the folly or corruption or negligence of its only keepers, the people." And he continued, Story continues, "Republics are created by the virtue, public spirit, and intelligence of the citizens. They fall when the wise are banished from the public councils because they dare to be honest, and the profligate are rewarded because they flatter the people in order to betray them," unquote. So friends, as citizens and future citizens of India, it's our duty to protect the constitutional values, and the highest constitutional value is rule of law supported by an independent judiciary. With these words, may I now request Justice Thakur to make his address to this gathering, and thereafter Ram will say a few words, which of course we will all be anxious to hear. Justice Thakur.
Mr Anil Divan, Mr Shankardass, Mr Jethmalani, Mr Prashant Kumar, former Chief Justice Saharia, Mr Acharya, Mr Bhat, Mr Venkatramani, and a host of other distinguished jurists, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, it is Mr Ram Jethmalani's birthday. The evening is pregnant with many celebrations, I believe. Some of you may be even invited to that fabulous feast which he has hosted. Perhaps his juniors have hosted. But on this occasion, I will, on behalf of all of you and on my own behalf, recite that very often recited prayer, "तुम जियो हजारों साल और हर साल के हों दिन 50,000." Being old is not, I think, enough. We must also pray that Mr Jethmalani lives a healthy, youthful life as he has always lived, and that he continues to enjoy all the good things of life for which he is well known. I was aware of the fact that I will be speaking to a very intimidating audience with such distinguished names as I have mentioned, and so many other scholars that will be attending this conference. So I made an attempt, perhaps the first in my life, to prepare a written address. Somehow, I have never been able to reconcile to the idea of reading out a written speech, that is something which has not gone down well with me. I feel the moment you start reading a speech, the audience is lulled to sleep. And I don't want my audience to be sleeping when I go through these pages which are lifeless. I somehow feel that even if you stammer for ideas or expressions, the audience enjoys it because it is that stammering or that struggle within for ideas and words that connects you to the audience. And in a speech, if there is something worth enjoying, it is the connect. If you connect to the audience, that is the success of the speaker. If you don't connect to the audience, it is as good as no speech, or it was better if you would not speak. An added reason why I thought that a written script will be safer is that everything that you are going to speak here is being recorded. So I thought that when you speak, I believe there is a tradition, I don't know how far it is correct, Mr. Jethmalani and Mr. Divan will mention it, maybe they know it better, that when you speak in a function where the President is presiding or he is going to speak,